So now even toddlers have OnlyFans accounts. I was going to say Instagram accounts, but it's both. This is insanity. And I would just like for humanity to actually acknowledge that when I'm saying that, no, I don't just believe that everybody's good. I believe people do what they can get away with. Exhibit A. So I was minding my business. You know what I mean? Doing whatever I was doing, you know? And a lot of times when I'm like just working away and I'm just doing whatever the heck I'm doing, I like to just listen to videos about random topics that pop up, right, on YouTube. And this girl makes a video talking about Instagram toddlers. And I was like, what are you talking about, right? Because I've had many thoughts, right, as a woman and somebody who hasn't had kids. This is another one of the very many reasons I do not want to have children in 2025, right? So I've thought a lot about like the dressing of both boys and girls, you know what I mean? And how inappropriate a lot of just even the clothes are, let alone the people and how people react, right? And you'll see on social media that other women who've had children, they talk about it, they do comparisons of how comes little boys' clothes will look like this, while we got like this type of clothing for young girls. And again, of course, they're kids, so it doesn't really matter, and it shouldn't at the end of the day, right? To those of us who haven't got any weird thoughts. Do I still think that you have to start at an early age in terms of how you advise how somebody dresses, particularly as a woman? I very much do. You know what I mean? So I would err on the more modest side of things for that reason. Also because you're protecting that person from the world that they're living in. You know what I mean? So we got to be wise about it. So I've thought about it. That's why, like, for example, for me, I don't think I'll put my daughter in cheerleading for like the first, I don't know how many years of her life. Gymnastics, I'm okay with. Cheerleading, it really has to depend on the uniform. Because I think some of these uniforms, especially when they're like super young, like I'll be at the cheer competitions, right, when I used to do cheer. And I'm like looking at the young kids groups and I'm thinking, you know what? The way they're dancing and the way they're dressing, I don't think that can work. Gymnastics, it's athletic, whatever, cool. So you guys get the gist. And also with cheerleading costumes, anybody who's done cheer knows, cheer uniform isn't that functional. It's definitely more on the fashionable side than it is the functional side. Whereas at least with things like gymnastics, it seems more functional. You know what I mean? Anyways, I digress. So when I see this Instagram toddler thing, I'm thinking, what we talking about now? What we talking about? Because I already think it's a bit far when people are like making Instagram pages for their kids and then like talking as their kids. I just think society is so freaking weird, by the way. I think everybody's so motherfucking weird in this society at this point. So that's where my boundaries were already. Let's just do for startings. So then, okay, you post cute little pics. It's great. You know what I mean? I'll like a few here and there. Nice little outfit, nice little family co-award. Everybody's matching. Everybody's got different swag, style, whatever. As the girl who made this video that I was listening to pointed out, first of all, most of these kids, they're not really thinking that deep into what they're wearing. If anything, maybe for young girls, like they want to wear like a princess dress. And I was also thinking, what happened to the days of that as well? This is like so sad. Like that's like, do you know what I mean? What happened to the days of childhood? Like childhood isn't a thing anymore. I don't know if people realize that. I don't think that even, I feel like there was never a way I was going to have a childhood as long as social media existed, to be honest. And I actually used to actually be out and about and like out and doing things as a kid. But I digress. So, so anyway, next thing you know, we're looking at all these examples of how there's people asking. First of all, we've got just the normal cute outfits. We can all just, say, you know what, fair enough. Still a bit, I don't know. I'm a bit weird about parents wanting to monetize off their kids. So it's one thing if you notice your child is talented, you want to increase their talents. Another thing if you see that as a paycheck, which you've seen again when the laws in the United States changed in California, was it? About how a certain amount of money for like family channels had to go to their children's savings, and then all of a sudden parents wanted to move. It's like, you don't want to save up money for your children. This is one thing I've noticed. A lot of parents have no viewpoint whatsoever of any type of inheritance, even for the ones that can afford it, which is crazy. I'd just like to add that biblically speaking, which is another reason why I don't think I should have children, is the Bible says that you should set up inheritance 2 generations ahead. So this whole backwards thing of parents, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. You see the funny things that Christians don't talk about, right? They'll talk about honor thy mother and father. They won't talk about how the Bible says set up an inheritance 2 generations ahead, will they? Interesting. Coinkadinkle. I think not. But anyway. So then we now have these toddlers that are just dressing downright like inappropriate. Like the type of clothing that I as a grown woman would never even leave the house in. Like I already am not, I'll be honest, in my natural fashion style when I'm not dressing like trying to dress so that nobody can see me. I'm not the most modest person at all. I'm actually probably I'm like kind of far from it. Okay? Your girl gets really hot. I don't really wear anything that goes past my knees, for example, because I get really hot. I'm not the most modest of all people in the world, right? But I wouldn't even wear close to what these toddlers are wearing on the internet. And again, the other thing is, I'm a grown woman, so I can make my own choices. And when I make my choices about how I dress, I can make my decision for myself as to what type of attention I'm opening myself up to, right? So I'm aware that if I never wanted a man to ever speak to me, I would have to wear what those Muslim women wear, the ones where they just cover, oh, your eyes are only visible. Okay? If I wanted to get no attention at all. If I wanted to increase my attention, right, I should wear something a little bit tighter, have a little bit of cleavage on show, and just bring it all together a bit more in general and all sorts of things. Okay? I get it. I know. A toddler does not understand that. And so my thinking is, what do you have to gain as a parent, especially as a mother? Such an issue with mothers these days. This is why I feel like, why should I ever be a mother? Because I feel like I'm destined to be degenerate like these women, like Kris Jenner, like these mums. Maybe it's just, maybe this stuff, because it's so prevalent at this point, right? I'm like, maybe it's just in us and there's no escaping it as hard as I could try. I'm being honest. I'm being vulnerable, right? It's a safe space, right? It's a safe space, or is it a safe space, right? So these are my genuine concerns. So you as a mother, just like how Kris Jenner is creative directing and telling Kim, oh, you need to do the sex tape again because the first time you didn't do it that way properly. Could you actually put your leg over there that time? If you could just make that if you know that second section, if you just make that a bit more believable, you know what I mean? I don't know what she was saying. I'm just making up stories here, right? But you get the gist. She. But everybody says she's such a loving mother, right? You see what I'm saying? Society sucks. Hate this place. These mothers, I'm like, how do you do that as a loving mother? How does anybody consider that? Anyway, I don't even want to get into the how does anybody consider that love argument, because I've said it 100 times. But the point is, I realized once again, it's the usual, isn't it? But because they can make money, because as this girl was pointing out under these pictures on Instagram, people talking about, have you got OnlyFans? I'm thinking, when in anybody's brain, right, did the word toddler and OnlyFans come into the same sentence? When in any stratosphere of existence did toddler and OnlyFans come into the same sentence, right? Because we all know what OnlyFans is for. It's not like other platforms, right? So if there was toddler and Patreon, maybe, because you know why? There are people who do content with their kids. Like there's this one dude and his daughter, they talk all the time. I don't know, she's like 4, and they have all these conversations, and it's really sweet. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, what they're doing. Also, her father's there. Also, you know what I mean? So I feel like, hey, and if they have I don't know if they have a Patreon, I've not checked, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? There's levels to this. We all know what OnlyFans is known for the most part. Yes, you can go and promote whatever you want. Oh my gosh, I was finding out about apparently some Christian girls trying to defend having an OnlyFans. So I got to figure out about this. These are the times, yeah, where I would be like, hey, let me just write this down so I don't forget about this Christian girl on OnlyFans, because brother, this I'm saying, this world, and people really think that the times of Sodom and Gomorrah were like before. I think we're worse. I think we're so much worse. This is going to be the theme of all my videos today, I feel. Wow. Sophie Rain even said that she believes she's a Christian faith. Oh my Lord, I'm gonna have to do a video about this. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. The one that's in the Bop House. Oh, okay. You know what? We're gonna come back to that. Anyway, this planet. Oh, we need Jesus. Jesus, please. Please. This is why when Jesus died, he really paid such a heavy price. I don't think people understand. So yeah, OnlyFans. It gets worse. These people, there are grown men now. This is what the statistics showed. The statistics showed that as the popularity of these pages grew, the ratio of the men involved was increasing. So there's more men as it was getting bigger, which is again concerning. Because then we got to a point where these men are asking to speak to these toddlers. Hear this, hear ye, winning team. And the parent, whichever parental figure is there, is allowing it. Excuse me? Because what business does a random stranger have talking to a toddler who they've seen basically undressed? And then it got worse because there was one woman who was all doing up, you know, the tight little clothing with thirst trap in, the like shaking her ass and like doing a little, you know, do you know what I love? I actually, the part of me that isn't obviously, you know, a woman of God, is in the part of me that knows that would be worldly, because obviously this is horror behavior. Kind of thinks that, you know what, shout out to the people that were able to create a life for themselves from basically just standing there and doing nothing and looking cute, because that's actually a hustle. And to be fair, that's a winning strategy, because I always say to you guys, play the cards that you have. This is why when I see people hate on girls who are just pretty on social media and they just basically do absolutely diddly squat other than be pretty, I'm like, good for them. Like, they found their hustle, right? But obviously, want more for yourself, like when it becomes to what we're about to talk about now. So you got this woman, and then she's getting the toddlers to do it. So we got toddlers also doing up these little thirst trappy type of little shaking our moving our hips and doing the this and that in these same outfits. And then you even have mothers doing it with the daughters. So the woman is doing all of that, right? And the daughter's there at the same time. And I'm like, you really, that's what I'm saying. People are insane. I don't know how people can ask, if God is real, why is there suffering in the world? Are we really asking that question? Have you met a human being before? Are you hearing the words of the things that I'm telling you about right now? This is why, you guys. This is why. This is why. And then these people who are into this, obviously, like, we all know that this is what I'm saying I don't respect about society trying to pretend like we don't know where anything comes from. The elephant is always in the room, ladies and gentlemen. If people say, oh, this person's got great manners and is responsible and is a gift to the community, they must have been raised well. Well, guess what? If their behavior was the opposite, what's the elephant in the room? Oh, maybe they weren't raised well. But we don't like that, because that means somebody has to be held accountable. Oh, if these young girls who are being put, and don't get me wrong, the same happens in the reverse. Again, as a woman, I've seen very weird behavior between women, between boys. Like, it's very weird. Like sometimes it's just a bit like, especially with the whole like, oh, wow, if you were a bit elder, then like, these things are just strange to me. Especially maybe because I have younger brothers, and my younger brother's like a couple of years younger than me, and to me he's like a baby. So because he always has been in my eyes, you know what I mean? Obviously he's a man now, but like, you know what I mean? So it's weird to me when people are like talking to like a 14-year-old, like, oh, like, it's one thing to say, oh wow, what beautiful children you have, oh, he's so handsome, or she's so beautiful. That's one thing. It's another thing to be like, wow, if you were a bit older, if you were 20 years old, like, that's weird. So it's not just the male issue, just to be very clear. Also, women get away with way more weird things, because there's a lot of, we all know the stories of the women who treat their sons like husbands, and that to me is the weirdest of all time. Really, because to me, my son, I would really want him to meet a good woman, and if there's any selfishness in there, I would actually like to have a great relationship with my daughter-in-laws. I think that is the goal, the winning goal. You know what I mean? where they just feel comfortable around me and they can do their little thing, and he can have somebody that's like his own. You know what I mean? This is why I feel like I'm too healthy for this world. He can have somebody that's his own number one fan that he can look after in his family, do what he needs to do. I should have myself figured out. You see what I'm saying about my issues of the world and why I just think the world is a crazy place? You should have yourself figured out. It's my job, right? If I bring them into this world, it's not my job to now rely on them as if they were like my husband. Oh, no. And anyway, we'll get into that. It's not part of this video. I just wanted to make sure that we were making it clear that not all the smoke is headed at the male department on these matters. But you guys get the gist. Like, these women obviously know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they've decided that they're prepared. This is a form of child sacrifice, guys. This is what I'm trying to say. When we talk about things like selling our soul to the devil and doing this and doing that, we always go to the extreme. Oh, they were in Hollywood and they went to Bohemian Grove and then they slit a pentagram in their hand and then they swiped hands like this with Satan and did whatever, right? On Friday the 13th. And then they signed their name in blood to Sony Records. No. Or they sacrificed their child and then they went and held them up, right? Like in The Lion King, right? And held them up and then slaughtered them at the top of the mountain. No, ladies and gentlemen. It comes from when you, as a parent, decide to put money, power, or fame, the temptation trio, before what your role is as a parent, which is to protect, which is to guide, which is to discipline, which is to teach. Do you understand what I'm saying? So again, so many of the women of us today and how we even conduct ourselves even at my age, I was having this conversation. I have this conversation with men all the time to let them really know. Because they be talking about, oh, fatherlessness, that. I'm like, you know what? There's some truth to that. Because a lot of people, this is the norm. This is what I'm saying to you. Imagine if this is how they start out now. Of course, these girls are going to become like a Kim Kardashian one day. It's been normalized. It's been normalized. Get rich off of the attention, the wrong type of attention, by monetizing your body. And by that point, it's normalized. That's why I think when people are like, the Kardashians are like this. What do you expect? This is what they've been doing. They've been literally guided by the people. Again, notice how with the Kardashians, anything that they do that's toxic, the blame only ever goes to the individual person. I always blame Kris Jenner above all else. Kris Jenner above all else, right? Especially because she's a mother. So like she should be knowing what it's like to be a woman and what it's like to be a woman in this world. And so why would you lead your daughters down that road? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Nevertheless, this is my point about selling child sacrifice. These things are a form of child sacrifice. These family vloggers, these family channels, unless you're doing it in a way where you know you're not compromising your child's life in any way. This is one of the problems of us in social media now, is that everything's online and you can monetize it. People are actually having babies. Like, it's actually so noticeable. This dude, he's a dad who makes videos. He doesn't record his kids. He calls out all the family channels. And I'm not going to lie, he said a lot of things I never considered, right? And one of the things he pointed out is how like the comparison of people like losing views and then getting pregnant and then the views spiking again. And almost as if like, oh, we don't have views, let's have more babies, right? Because of course people eat up that content. I'm the kind of person who eats up that kind of content because I find it fascinating what people do. What was their birth plan? How do they prepare the house for when they were having a baby? What is it that they feed their baby? What is it that they eat? What do they eat while they're pregnant? What do they eat while they're breastfeeding? What do they do with the fat? Like, what are they doing for their child's first birthday? What kind of clothes are they buying? Why do they pick those clothes? Like, I care because I'm a woman, right? So these are the things that we think about anyway, right? So of course it's fascinating. I no longer am into that content, by the way. Those days have died because I've realized social media is just horrific. And again, actually, I'll tell you why that died. So one person who I was really looking at, this is what I'm saying about social media and womanhood and motherhood, right? And hence what I've said, because I feel like it's a disease that it seems we just can't get away from. Don't get me wrong. I know there's plenty of great mothers in the world, but you know, I'll have to meet more of them. You know, I saw Colleen Ballinger, right? And when she was pregnant, because she had twins, or she had one son and then she had twins and one son. And then I was also noticing that at the same time she's having all this motherhood content, and I'm like, this is how my life has changed, because I like to spend my daytime with my son, looking after him. And then at the nighttime is when I work. I was thinking, oh, do you know what? How sweet how she's, she's prioritized, motherhood now that she's having a baby. And like she's used the time when her son is asleep is when she actually works. And I thought her balance of the two was really smart. It was one of the smartest ones that I've seen, where I felt like her family didn't have to suffer, like in her looking after her kids for the sake of her career, and her career also didn't have to suffer otherwise. And I felt like she had a more new school approach, albeit not necessarily the approach I personally would go for, but I liked it. All to find out anyway, she's the same one sending weird things, sending Trisha Paytas's explicit content to kids, having inappropriate sexual conversations with kids herself. So I'm just like, you know what? The world is a weird place, and I don't even want to be involved in this. And then so now know that we've even gone worse. This is what I'm saying. Sodom and Gomorrah. You think Sodom and Gomorrah was yesterday? You think Sodom and Gomorrah? We're worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. People in Sodom and Gomorrah are probably looking at it like, really? We have to go to hell when these people are doing this. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, because we know what we're doing. So I'm saying it's a form of child sacrifice. All this stuff. You're sacrificing for financial gain. It's the only reason why you do it. Because if you cared about your children, you wouldn't do it. If you cared that you wanted to be on social media, but you cared about your kids, you would do it in a way that's respectful towards them and doesn't, go outside of your job role as a parent. As soon as you're willing to bypass that for the sake of whatever, here's where we find ourselves in the realms of child sacrifice. Because it's the same like with selling your soul as anything else. It's a whole scale. There's a whole list of things that fall under those categories, right? As soon as you're moving outside of your morals and values for the sake of money, power, and fame, you are selling your soul. You are sacrificing, child sacrificing, whatever sacrificing. That's the reality. There is no ifs, buts, maybes otherwise. And the only person who's going to know, and this is why I like to think about parents. Obviously, I've talked to hundreds of parents throughout the years because of my job. Is, listen, you can get everybody in the world to defend you. You guys can all feel sorry for yourselves and make every excuse about the generation you came from and blah, 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 blah. Do whatever you want to do and say whatever you want to say. Deep down, internally, you know the truth and God knows the truth, right? If you know that you're doing your best, then there's nothing for you to explain to anybody. But if deep down you know what you're doing is just for the sake of money, whatever, or just because whatever, that's deep down inside of, even if all of society comes in to back you up and to defend you, it's still on you, my friend. So do whatever you want. This is like the Bible says, like that. This is actually the rule of Satan. It says, do what thou wilt, do whatever you want, because the devil knows that you can do whatever you want, because that's how he operates. The Bible doesn't do that. The Bible has a whole bunch of scriptures. The only scripture of Satan is do whatever you want. Maybe there's a reason why God has boundaries. You know why? Because he's a good parent. That's why. And that's how he's different to you. And that's why if you feel convicted by what I'm saying or like I'm attacking anybody, it's only because it's true to you. Because anybody who knows it's not true to them would not be offended by anything that I have to say about parents ever. It's something that I've actually come to realize. And the fact that so many people are proves my point that parenting has very much died in modern society. Hence why I call this generation that I'm a part of and the generations after me, of which I'm a Gen Z, we are the orphan generations. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. Do better. And I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.